2017 regular board meeting of the Pullman School District. And can we begin with flag salute led by Robbie Allen?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Superintendent Maxwell, are there any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda.
Okay.
I move approval of the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is approved. Next, we have reports, correspondence, and program, beginning with the PHS ASB report.
Hello, my name is Robbie Allen. I'm the executive president of the ASB here. For our report, I have a couple things to report about ASB and the leadership class as well. For ASB, we have just held the executive council elections, and so we have this junior named Ben Riley, Colin Finch, and what? And Nick Spen, who are going to be part of the executive council for next year. And then for the treasurer position, we're working on the appointment process of that we have outlined in the Constitution. Also, we have class elections coming up very shortly, and we've added a treasurer position to each class. So they will now have 5 positions available, which are the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and executive representative. And this was due to us wanting the classes to be more aware of their financial situation, because we were having a couple issues or miscommunications about how much money they had to plan dances and whatnot. And so also at our meeting today, we saw your changes that you guys would like to make, and we did make those in the Constitution, and so we will forward those to you. And that Constitution was passed as well. The amendments were. Then for leadership, currently this week we are working on the administrative professionals week and appreciating them in different ways. And so the leadership class has come up with a couple ways, and you might hear about those in the coming days. And then, sorry, I'm jumping back to ASB. This is bad. Next board meeting, you guys will be introduced to the executive council. They will be here, so you'll get the chance to meet them. And I think that is all. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, that'd be go. All right. Thank you.
Okay, next we have board reports. I'll begin down with Director Everman.
I just wanted to thank the community who participated in the open house here at the high school on April 20th, the ribbon cutting ceremony. We made it through the rainstorm and everything, so good participation. Thank you very much.
All right, Director Johansson.
It was a wonderful day or afternoon, and the rain and rainbow couldn't have been scripted if we could have attempted to script such a thing. I just really appreciate that everyone that participated, and particularly, as I said that afternoon, the work that Joe Thornton has done as the building administrator for the first 2 years and as the superintendent and watchdog for the district for this last year, almost a year. Anyway, it was a wonderful ceremony. That's all.
Thank you. Director Kinzig.
I have no report this evening.
Okay. I just wanted to briefly
go over, it was pointed out to me by a constituent that it might not be clear to members of the public when we conduct executive or closed sessions what the purpose of those is. We do have a policy regarding executive or closed sessions, and Dr. Maxwell momentarily will be going over how you can access all of our policy information, but this is just kind of to break it down because the policy, as you would expect, has some dense language. The legitimate reasons for closing a meeting generally concerned issues that, if they were discussed in public, could violate privacy laws or harm or cause embarrassment to the district or to another party. A general list of valid reasons for going into an executive or closed session include consulting with district counsel regarding legal issues, discussing litigation or prospective litigation either by the district or against the district, conferring about contracts or property purchases, because after all, it's really hard to negotiate if your position is known publicly, reviewing employees or personnel issues, or handling disciplinary matters or rules violations. So those are kind of the standard things that happen in a confidential context, just to avoid causing embarrassment to a person or to the district. So I just wanted to mention that. And next we can move into our superintendent's report. Dr. Maxwell.
Thank you. So several different announcements. I just kind of want to go through your folder so you're aware what'll be in your folder today. First, you will be, if you have not already, received an email for Bill Keim. It's regarding 4th Senate Bill House 1541, which passed the 2016 legislative session. This new law tasks the Washington State School Directors Association, WASDA, with developing a plan for the creation and delivery of cultural competency training program for board directors and superintendents. So I just want to point out that you should receive an email. If you don't, let me know. So just a reminder in the folder. Also, a reminder.
Well, in fact, in the email is a participation in the survey.
Survey, correct. Yeah. So make sure you check that because there is a survey.
Right.
Thank you, Carl. Also, just to let you know, on Saturday we have the FFA plant sale. So again, very popular. And they did put on there no early sales this year. So that's from 8 to 12 at the PHS greenhouse, which is located in the back of the building. We had our 2017 kindergarten registration on the 25th of April. So far we have 45 in FES, which is Franklin, Jefferson 37, Sunnyside 42, a bus box of 41, so that gives us a total of 165 kindergarten students registration packets turned in on the 25th.
How does that compare to, say, this year at this point in time?
Pretty close, maybe down a little bit, but probably down maybe 15. So right in the ballpark, and those are always, well, from now till school starts will trickle in. So also want to point out there is a 2017 Community Leaders WASA pamphlet in here, just so you're aware. Sandra Albers, our Pullman Education Foundation president, was recognized as the WASA Community Leader of the Year for the Pullman School District. So just want to point that out. Also, we've had our very latest. Oh, you mentioned.
No, I was
okay.
going to.
I don't want to steal your thunder.
No,
So.
go for it.
We also just finished our latest state audit, and we had a very clean audit findings. So no findings at all, clean audit. Some recommendations about how we can prepare and make life a little easier for our finance department. So a nice clean audit for your preview. So also, wanted to point out on Saturday, this past Saturday, we had 2 community groups who volunteered to help with outdoor projects at Lincoln Middle School and Franklin Elementary School. So we had 10 members from the Evangelical Free Church and who was the other group? Living Faith Fellowship. So they both groups came out and did some wonderful work. So there's some pictures that are included. And I think those will be on our website as well. But they just did a fantastic job cleaning up our 2 schools.
Bob, I want for the rest of the board who weren't there to go back to the audit item for
Yes.
a second. And that was that the audit was so clean that they made some suggestions on rulings that haven't been made yet. And Diane knew that the state auditor's office had not yet issued the final rulings about what we're supposed to do, even though we couldn't be expected to do it in 2016 and have not yet received guidance on how to do it during 2017. So how could Diane and her staff possibly be ascribing to the new regulations when they haven't been decided upon as yet? But the way the audit works, if, say, we get the guidance in September, then we wouldn't have done it for the whole school year, because if we start doing it after the school year starts, we won't have done it for the whole school year. And they'll still write that in the audit. So hats off to Diane that
Yep.
countered, hey, wait a minute. State Auditor's Office, OSPI has said State Auditor's Office hasn't told us how to do it yet. So, anyway, that's all.
Well done, Dan. Very, thanks for pointing that out, Carl.
Yeah.
Also, just to let you know, I received an email from a constituent regarding the Kamiak School mascot, and they had just a concern that they wanted to share. So you'll want to take a look at that before that discussion item comes up. So there's also extra copies of Dedicated Teacher Award. And anything else with a paper clip, there's a copy for you. So I'll pass that down. Also, construction update, Pullman High School. So we're still working primarily on landscaping, the upper field, the bike and walk path down from the tennis courts, waiting for sod to arrive so we can place sod between the wings. They're working on some drainage catchments that they're working on, one off of Greyhound Way, one in the direct back of the third wing. But we're getting much, much closer to finishing the project, and we should, they tell me within the next 2 weeks we should be done with landscaping. So, of course, that's weather dependent, and we'll see how that works. So, with Kamiak Elementary, we're still working on finalizing for the bid process, which will go out end of May or beginning of June. And hopefully, if it ever dries out enough, to start some grading. But right now, we haven't been able to move any dirt, so we're waiting on that. Also, I'll just point out in the agenda, that there are, in the packet, there is, the PHS time-lapse video that was shown at the open house, and renovation and construction of PHS brief PowerPoint, which kind of shows from beginning to end. Both those are linked, and both those will be on our website, so if anybody's interested in seeing those, that's kind of fun to watch.
Who produced those? Was it Doug's crew?
Shannon, do you know who put those?
The time lapse was from a camera that was posted across from the football field, and so that was recording the entire project.
Right.
It's just a 6-minute clip of that, and then the other one was a presentation that I did.
So well done.
Well done.
Very informative, a lot of comments on both of those. So, also, after the last board meeting, there was a constituent that had a recommendation about maybe providing some more information to our public about kind of where they can find the policies and procedures. So I just put together a really brief PowerPoint, which I will share. So where can I find the district policies and procedures? They are on our website. So if you go to www.pullmanschools.org, and you'll get this picture, this screenshot. And if you just click on where it says school board, you'll get a drop-down menu, and policies and procedures are the first tab in that drop-down menu. So very easy to find. Whoops. So if I clicked on that, this upper screen is what you would see, and it would have the 1000s through the 6000s, which are all the board policies, the 1000s and 2000s on down. If you're interested in, say, a 1000, you would click on that. This would be what you would see, the next screenshot, which then would have all of the 1000 policies and procedures lined out just below that. And if you picked one of those, you just click on it, you'd get the third screenshot down in the lower right, and that would show, in this case, it was a board policy, board of directors. So it's the first one, it's the 1000. So very easy to navigate, just click and it'll take you right through. So this would be the first screen, you click on the 1000 and you would get the actual board policy. So very easy. There is a search engine as well. So it's fairly accurate in finding different policies, procedures, and or sometimes minutes which may reference a particular policy. Yeah. So how do we develop and revise policy? So we're constantly working on revising our policies and procedures in alignment with WASDA. So WASDA is the governing board that takes laws from the legislature and helps develop, a lot of times they're tasked with developing policies and procedures in relation to educational institutions. So we're always working on a backlog. We get anywhere from 10 to 20 policies each month to try to go through and revise and update. So we always take the essential ones first, discretionaries are second. So it's a lot. We're not uncommon. I don't think there's a school district in the state of Washington that's always up to date with their policies and procedures. It's a lot to go through and to revise, have legal counsel look over, and of course bring them to the board. So all policy is reviewed by appropriate administrators, and all policy adoptions and revisions are approved by the board. So they cannot go forward until they're approved by the board. And in WASDA, that's the Washington State School Directors Association. So they provide significant support for all school districts. They do training, legislative lobbying, legal guidance, and that's what all school districts really rely on as their legal guidance. All these, when they come to us, have been reviewed by their legal staff. We edit them. Sometimes we talk with our own legal staff. So it goes kind of back and forth till we arrive at the language that usually is acceptable to legal counsel and is acceptable to the board. So where can I see the revisions made in a policy? So and tonight we'll be going over several. So at the end of all policies and procedures is usually a date stamp, and it'll show you the last time it was revised. So in this particular one, it was 2011, and then again in 2017. When you are looking at revisions in a board packet, if it's underlined, it's new language. If it has a strike through, that's the old language. So pretty easy to see what was old, what was stricken, and what is the new language that was added. It's always underlined. So pretty easy to tell. And that is it. So pretty simple, pretty easy. If you go to our website, pretty easy to navigate. And if you ever have a problem, you can call the office and we can help with that.
Thank you. The next portion of the agenda is the visitors section. This part of the agenda is for anyone wishing to speak before the board, either as an individual or a member of the group. Visitors addressing the board will go to the microphone and state their name and address prior to presenting their information. Visitors are asked to limit their remarks to 3 minutes. And I do have a timer, so please regard the timer. The board will listen, but will not discuss the topic at this time. The board may consider moving the topic presented to a future meeting date as a discussion item. And we do have a sign-in sheet for speakers tonight, and the first speaker is Allison West.
Can we take a moment and put up our chairs? There are many people outside.
Certainly.
Thank you. Allison, if you could wait till we, thank you. Looks like there are several seats still available. Are there others waiting to come in?
No, you're good now.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
all right.
All right. My name is Allison West. I'm at 225 Southwest Elm Street. Dear members of the board, today I am here to speak about my concern regarding the Pullman Public School District Administration's practices for placing teachers on administrative leave. I'm concerned the teacher professional expectations have been made unclear lately, and I'm now unsure how to safeguard myself from being placed on administrative leave. Here are some facts that I know to be true about my husband, Mr. Justin West, who was placed on administrative leave and forced to resign from his position at Sunnyside Elementary. I know that Mr. West's students were making excellent academic growth under his instruction. I know that the parents of Mr. West's students were satisfied with their education while Mr. West was teaching, as made evident by the 16 families that worked together to address the school board on this matter. I know that Mr. West was never rated unsatisfactory in his teacher evaluations and, in fact, had been complimented by both Principal Brantner and Dr. Kramer on his ability to keep students engaged in their learning activities during routine observations. I know that Mr. West was so dedicated to making sure his classroom community was a positive and safe environment that he gave up his own lunch break to eat with his students in order to get to know them better. As Mr. West's colleague, and with the facts that I know to be true, I have to wonder why it is that he was asked to resign his position. It seems that he was meeting all of the professional expectations that I hold myself to, so certainly it couldn't be for the lack of ability to perform his job duties. As teachers, we give our students clear, consistent expectations to help them be successful in their role as learners. I think that clear, consistent expectations need to be stated explicitly for teachers as well, so that we might use these expectations to guide our own professional success here at PSD 267. As a reflective practitioner, I can't help but notice it seems even if I meet my professional expectations, there still seems to be a chance I could be placed on administrative leave. Due to Mr. West's forced resignation, I have to wonder, what other expectations does our administration have that I'm unaware of? The fact that this administration seems to have found something so concerning to remove a teacher in the middle of the school year, and yet I still have no idea what could possibly have been wrong, leaves me wondering, will I be next? Thank you.
Is Phil Honeywell here?
My name's Phil Honeywell. I'm at 1215 Northwest Orion Drive. My family moved to Pullman 10 years ago, in part because of the reputation of the Pullman Public Schools. And we came into a school district that has been historically an amazing place for our children to learn and grow. We were amazed to see a teacher pool that included PhDs and non-traditional educators. A diverse and engaging educational community, something that was missing at the school district that we were coming from. As we have progressed through all the schools with our 3 children, from Jefferson to Lincoln and on to PHS, we've continued to see terrific engagement and mentoring on the part of teachers and school staff to ensure that the children of this community are getting the education that they both need and deserve. This educational environment in Pullman is changing, and as we see it, it's not changing for the better. The Pullman School District has been, over the course of the last year or so, transitioning from a collaborative relationship between district administration and school staff to a more divisive one. An early indication of where this administration wanted to take the district came with the hiring of an assistant superintendent with a questionable disciplinary track record. This was followed by the adoption of several policies and procedures that appear to be designed to punish those teachers that form meaningful connections with the students and their families. Divisive actions such as this do nothing to serve the students or the community of Pullman in any positive way. The teachers and in-school staff play the most important role in the development of our kids that they see outside the home. And in some cases, these people are the most important and impactful adult role models in a child's life. The actions that we are seeing from this administration, and by extension from the school board, are ignoring the core tenets that have long made the Pullman schools an educational beacon for parents, students, and educators. I would encourage all of you to take a step back and take a long, hard look at the roots of this district and what it is growing into in the future. As a community, we want an administration and school board that serves our schools and our teachers, not one that works against them. Take a page from what today, as a collaboration day, was all about, and start looking for ways to collaborate with the teachers, staff, and community instead of looking for ways to divide us. Thank you.
Diane Roberts.
My name is Tyann Roberts, 1445 Southwest Panorama Drive, and my son was in Mr. West's magical kindergarten class at Sunnyside. His replacement teacher shared this assignment with me. This was weeks after Mr. West was forced to resign, and it says, if I had $100. My son wrote, if I had $100, I'd buy Mr. West. My son was a reluctant reader going into kindergarten. I'll never forget the day he jumped into my car with the biggest grin on his face. He said, Mom, you have to read this book Mr. West gave me, with the happiest, giddiest child voice you can imagine. It was this book. He laughed so hard every time he made me read it over and over again. After that, my child's approach to learning and reading took a 180-degree turn. I'll also never forget the day I picked up my son crying uncontrollably when he found out Mr. West was done being his kindergarten teacher. Almost 3 months later, when most children usually have adjusted to change, I still hear about Mr. West, Marvel the monkey, locating patterns, and endless Mr. West stories every day. I also noticed that excitement for reading has now dwindled. I noticed my son having major control issues, outbursts of anger, short temper, and just days he can't explain why he's sad. His 6-year-old brain does not know how to process this. He is sad mad. That's from our favorite movie, Home. And I don't blame him. It was an irresponsible decision to remove a kindergarten teacher in the middle of the year when he was not a danger to any child. This seems so obvious to me and probably any educator that I cannot believe I am here right now having to prove this was a bad decision. I would have liked the following steps to take place if you had concerns or conflicts. 1, gather information from all the parents. You didn't have to share information with us. You could have reached out saying you were doing a mid-year check on how things were going with a new full-day kindergarten format. Although I would suggest you have an impartial person present so our concerns aren't twisted and used maliciously to remove a teacher that an administrator did not see eye to eye with. 2, offer a mentor teacher extra training, other support resources. 3, give constructive suggestions in a positive manner, not a demeaning one. 4, put a teacher's aide in the classroom for the remainder of the year. We are paying for 2 teachers right now. Why not do it in the first place to benefit our children? 5, bring in a conflict resolution specialist, team building activities, etc. To the best of my knowledge, none of these steps took place. For this reason, I believe we have a major issue. Our teachers are being used as scapegoats instead of looking at the problem as a whole. We need to investigate and dig into everything. As a result, I'm requesting a formal investigation into Dr. Kramer's tactics on forcing a teacher to resign and proof of any attempts at conflict resolution and giving additional support to solve a problem with the least amount of trauma to the kids as possible. Include the parents, Mr. West, union reps to get the full, complete picture, not just their side. I propose that as an investigation takes place, that she be removed from any ongoing investigations and any potential investigations of teachers or principals. The school district has failed our teachers, the class of Mr. West, and lost our trust. How you proceed is how you will start to regain our trust. You lost a good one. You should be sad bad too.
I withdraw my request at this time.
Okay. Sean Ritchie.
Hi, I'm Sean Ritchie of 921 West Main Street. Today I'm speaking on behalf of Mr. Wilson, who is subbing in Mr. Church's classroom. He's on a substitute teacher's wage, which isn't much, I was a sub once, and is concerned about 5th grade camp. He is a retired teacher, so he knows how much work goes into camp. In addition to the fun but long and tiring days, there are many planning meetings. Mr. Wilson has not been told if he will receive additional compensation for the extra time and energy he is putting into the whole process. The lack of communication is frustrating for him. Communication has been an issue surrounding Mr. Church's sudden removal from school, and now it seems it is still a problem, even for this seemingly straightforward situation. All he is asking is to have a clear idea of what compensation he will receive for his work. Mr. Wilson's wife contacted me because she is concerned for her husband. He does not need this extra stress stemming from the uncertainty. Substitute teachers should always be treated with respect and transparency, and in this instance, the district is very fortunate to have such an experienced teacher step in to work at 5th grade camp. Let Mr. Wilson know where he stands with regard to the pay he will receive for working at the camp. Please, better communication. Thank you.
Rhonda Skaggs.
Good evening. My name is Rhonda Skaggs, and I live at, public speaking. I live at 1325 Northwest Douglas Drive. I have 2 children in Pullman Public Schools. I'd like to start by saying thank you to the school board. You are performing an important public service, and I wouldn't want it to be a thankless job. I appreciate your time and effort. Thank you for the opportunity to address the board this evening. I've lived in Pullman for nearly 12 years, and I have been a volunteer at Jefferson Elementary for 9 years. Sorry. I would like to say a few words about our community. Our family moved to Pullman for work at WSU. My spouse is a professor, and he was recruited for his job. During that recruitment, Pullman was sold to us as a great place to raise kids, in no small part because of the quality of our public schools. With not 1 but 2 universities and an important engineering firm as our major employers, we have a diverse and well-educated population. It goes without saying that education is a priority for us. It is a close-knit community, but it can be hard to find your way into it. I struggled with that my first few years here. I found my place by volunteering in my elementary school. As a longtime volunteer, I've spent a lot of time at Jefferson, and I've gotten to know our teachers, staff, kids, and parents. I've seen what our teachers do for our community. Some children come to school needing more than just a teacher who will boost their test scores. I've known teachers to buy shoes for kids who need them out of their own pocket. These are the friends and neighbors that make up our community. They are the trusted adults that I want kids to have access to. I have a high degree of confidence in our elementary school staff and administration. It's easy to fall into an us versus them confrontation. I want to say to the board, the school district administration, and to the members of the public in attendance tonight that we will be more successful if we work together as a community. I advocate for cooperation and respectful dialogue. And I would respectfully advise the Pullman Public School Administration not to underestimate the resolve of this community to be engaged in the oversight of our public school system. Thank you.
Susan Howe, did I say your last name right?
I get everything from cow to KO to...
What is the...
According to my husband, it's Tao, like to start with the word towel.
Okay, thank you.
At least in Shanghai, if he was from Taiwan, it would be Xiao.
Okay, thank you.
There's a whole different issue there. My name is Susan Tao. I live at 1050 Northwest Clifford Street, and I need reading glasses to read my remarks. The events of this school year have been unprecedented in the history of the Pullman School District. After talking with lifelong Pullman residents and retired teachers, no one can ever remember a single teacher, much less two, being put on extended administrative leave. I think we need to look at the changes that have occurred in our administration this year in order to better understand what has happened and how to prevent it from ever happening again. The most notable changes have been in the positions of superintendent and assistant superintendent with the retirement of Dr. Paul Sturm. While Dr. Bob Maxwell has been in the district several years with a planned transition to superintendent from the assistant's position, we have an entirely new person hired in the person of Dr. Roberta Kramer. I must assume that the committee designated to hire the new assistant superintendent did their due diligence. But I found that a simple Google search of Dr. Kramer and her prior position provided a number of concerns for me. Dr. Kramer comes to us from Riverside School District, a small rural district north of Spokane, where she served as superintendent since 2007. According to reports by KHQ News, the longtime principal of Riverside High School, Mr. John McCoy, was suddenly placed on administrative leave in May of 2016. The only explanation was a letter sent to Mr. McCoy by Dr. Kramer stating, "Dear John, as you know, I recently became aware of allegations regarding your conduct. Therefore, I am placing you on administrative leave with pay." Does this sound familiar? It's already happened twice in Pullman this year. After Riverside parents, students, and community members became aware of the situation, a large number of them began to attend the school board meetings in May, where public comments about their concerns and support for their principal were shut down. When they again attended the June meeting, 2 police deputies were requested to monitor security, something that had never happened in the district before. Both citizens and KHQ News asked questions that would not breach any privacy issues in regard to the situation, such as who the investigator assigned to the case was, and no one got any answers. Again, this is the same problems that we're seeing in Pullman this year. When KHQ and the Spokesman Review newspaper reached out to Mr. McCoy and his attorney, they were told the press that they didn't even know what the allegations were, which again, we have heard here in Pullman. Then in July of 2016, after months of turmoil, Dr. Kramer announced her resignation to take the assistant superintendent's position here. According to another KHQ story, the Pullman School District said she was part of a very rigorous selection process. But if that's the case, was this ongoing issue in her current district of concern to the hiring committee? Did they even know? As soon as Dr. Kramer left Riverside School District, Mr. McCoy was reinstated to his position as principal almost immediately by the new superintendent. Again, no explanations were given, the superintendent simply stating he wanted to move forward to heal so we can provide the best education possible for our students.
My name is Amanda Tanner. I live at 960 Southwest Crestview Street. I'm here to express my continued concern in the actions chosen that are negatively affecting the children attending school in this district, including my kindergartner. I truly feel these actions are not in the best interest of the children. My family moved here almost 4 years ago, and like many of you, had the choice about which community to settle into. At the time, we had a 2-year-old, so with the prospect of school on the horizon, school districts and the quality of education was our highest priority. Naturally, that pointed us to purchasing a home in Pullman. We had only read and heard the most wonderful accolades about the teachers, staff, administration, board, and parent involvement in the Pullman City School District. We were so excited to be settling into a community where we could have confidence in the quality of education that our children would be receiving. Fast forward 3 years, that 2-year-old is starting kindergarten. The first year of full-day kindergarten. What an exciting opportunity. Everything was going wonderfully, and our child was adjusting and loving school. He talked and laughed about it all the time, and he couldn't get out of bed soon enough every morning. On February 8th, 2017, my happy child came running out of the school crying. Since then, he runs out of the school crying at least once a week. He doesn't wake up for school anymore. He asks to not go. He shows signs of stress and anxiety and a sudden lack of confidence. My child does not have a difficult time transitioning and is very flexible. So if he's having this hard of a time, I can only imagine that other children are struggling even more. Many of these children have been robbed of their security, and their parents have been robbed of being able to trust the decisions being made in the interest of their children. I don't think enough value is being given to the disruption in the education and environment these children have suffered. Something has changed in this school district starting this year. The morale has changed. It's obvious even to a newbie like me. We need to take a hard look at what has changed. Who has changed this year to cause these issues, and address some of those items. I have a feeling we won't find the changes or issues in the teachers in question. I understand there is a place for the term personnel issues, and they are inappropriate to share with the public. But is this term being used properly under the circumstances we are watching unfold with 2 teachers? Children are suffering, assumptions are being made, reputations are being ruined. We are invested in this school district, this community, and the education of our children. And we look forward to working together with the board until a solution is found. Thank you.
Miriam Hefty.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. Just got done teaching a bunch of swim lessons, so I'm kind of a mess. I'm Miriam Hefty. I'm a minor, so I'm not going to say my address out loud. I'm just here on behalf of the senior class because we know that for several years, for many years, it has been under the school board's ruling that we're not allowed to decorate our graduation caps, and we're hoping for a change. Sorry. So today we had our half day, so we had class meetings and we talked about like graduation and everything like that, and a lot of kids vocalized their interest in decorating caps, and so I have come as like the representative kind of between the two of us to talk about that. And so I passed out some pictures of ideas for graduation caps and stuff like that, just because we want to show that it doesn't have to be inappropriate or anything like that. And I've talked to Mrs. Gould, who actually referred me to you guys, and we were talking about different ways to get it so it won't be inappropriate or a problem, especially for the years to come for all the underclassmen. So a few of those ideas were like, we draw it out and then get it approved by the administration, and if you would like, we can also include the school board in that approval. Again, it's just up for discussion, so we can include you guys in that approval. And also, then if anyone decides to change their graduation cap, it has to be approved again before they're allowed to change it. And if you do change it, it's just like you don't have a cap, so you are not allowed to walk.
There's also the option of buying extra caps to give to people who change their cap or make it inappropriate if that's something you're interested in. I was talking to Mrs. Comp earlier, and we were kind of talking about how we both thought it would be a better way to just say, like, you don't have a cap then and you can't walk or something like that, just so that way there is not the option to make it inappropriate or to go above everyone's heads. So we are just looking into trying to figure out a way to get that going for this year's class of 2017. So do you have any questions? Sorry, I was kind of thrown into this at the last minute, so I wasn't 100% prepared.
I don't think we have any questions. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Jenny Harder.
I'm Jenny Harder. I live at 1515 Southwest Casey Court. This is going to be super, super short, I promise. I'm representing a concerned citizens group. Those of us who were able to attend the communications training were very impressed with the presenter. We're relieved to know that the district communication, one of our major concerns, sounds like it's being heard and being addressed by the board and the district, and we're very appreciative of that. We realize that being a board member is oftentimes a thankless job, but thank you all very much for being here. One of our members went back through all of the videos, and she painstakingly wrote down all the questions that people asked in case there were questions that you all would want to communicate answers to for us. So on behalf of that committee, I'll be passing out the questions to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there others who wish to address the board? Okay. If you could kind of assemble yourselves, go ahead and, yeah.
Oh, no,
I just wouldn't want everybody to look around and go, oh, you go first. No, you go. You just
I got this.
Okay.
My name is Ann Parks. I'm a 24-year community member of Pullman. I had 2 children go through the Pullman schools, was a 17-year parent starting at Jefferson Elementary. Sat at my first PTA meeting with Christy Curley, and we looked at each other and said, hi. And then we said yes, and then next thing I knew I was president of the PTA. So I have a long and storied history with the Pullman schools, and I just came as a community member, and also I'm on the city council, and I've had members of the community contacting me just out of the blue, teachers, parents, just contacting me saying, this is happening, it's really bad, please, can you come? They didn't ask me to speak, and I wasn't planning on it, but I just want to say that I echo everything that all these parents have said, and these parents are just, wow, just to come up here and tell their stories, it really is impressive. And the effect that it's having on the children, first and foremost, the effect it's having on the children. But also, you know, Pullman does support our community, and how do we know that? This building we're standing in, okay? And the teachers that we have, just, so it hurts me to see this district suddenly on the rocks. I feel like it's on the rocks. People are going to lose confidence. That brand new parent who said, we were so excited, and now we're not, we're scared, okay? This is really happening. Sorry. And so, I love this district. I put a lot of hours into a lot of activities in my children's classrooms, at football games, name it, okay? We've all done it. I believe in the teachers, I believe in the administration, I believe in this school board. You all have been so solid all these years. Please don't let this happen, okay? I'm asking for transparency. As a member of a city council, an elected official just like you, people are saying to me all the time, we need to know what you're doing. We need to know what you're thinking. Please communicate with us. That's what these people are asking for. That's what your parents are asking for. Please get it out in the news. Get it on your website. Tell them what is your plan, what is happening, and why, okay? Within the confidentiality rules, I understand that. But when you have a room full of parents here and you have children who are not wanting to go to school anymore, children who are not wanting to go to school anymore, do you hear that? What are we all here for? What are we here for? We're to educate the children, okay? So I just wanted to say that as a community member and with people, teachers, administrators, and parents coming to me out of the blue, I'm not even in the schools anymore. I don't have to be here. It doesn't matter. But you know what? It does matter. Because not only parents care about this district, we all do. Thank you.
I'm Jane Lariviere, and I live at 277 Southwest Shirley Street. And Susan perfectly captured everything that I was going to say today, mostly about the rigorous selection process involved with hiring Dr. Kramer. And, you know, I'm just going to be candid. You guys have been around a long time, right? Like school board members, respected members of the community. And I don't know that you guys would ever be able to recall a time when 2 teachers in the same year have been placed on administrative leave. And I think that anytime there's exceptions to what's generally been happening, it's worth investigating. The other thing that I'd like to say, since I'm starting fresh, is, you know, my daughter went all the way through Sunnyside and had a fantastic experience. But every year wasn't a year with best teacher ever. There were a few teachers that my daughter didn't connect with, but I felt like if you get through that year, then you're a better person, because not every single person you encounter through life is great. So I don't know what happened with Dr. West or Mr. Church, but you know, having things not work out is actually a learning experience too. And I could tell you personally the impact teachers and the teachers that we survived, but my daughter is thriving and she's doing great in 8th grade. And it doesn't necessarily matter because there's people that just pick up things and support things. And, you know, one of the key people was Mr. Church, because my daughter really struggled the first 4 years. And we had Mrs. Dye and we had Miss Laird. And every Christmas it was like, oh boy, you know, we're a little behind, we're a little this, we're a little that. You know, there was some talk at the beginning of whether she needed to repeat a grade. And I felt okay, because they were loving her and looking after her. And then Mr. Church came along, and halfway through the year, she suddenly became this like brain. And she has like A's and stuff now, you know, where she was doing really, because I'm not really, you know, like I just sort of let her do her thing, because I think that, you know, you can't force a flower. Anyway, the last thing that I want to say is, I just had a question for Dr. Maxwell. I have no idea if you have children, but if you have children in this Pullman School District, I was just curious if if any of your children have ever received rides home from other teachers in the district, or rides to school, or had sleepovers, or been to barbecues at other teachers' houses, or if they've had an impact teacher that they wanted to spend more time with. Thank you.
Are there others wishing to address the board? Going once? Going twice?
Oh, I'll address the board.
Okay.
Okay. My name's Lisa Jones. I live at 565 Southwest Barnes. I've been in Pullman for a very long time. I think now 10 years working at WSU. I've worked with people that have gone to school in the Pullman School District. I had an opportunity to move up to Spokane, but I decided to stay down here. Single mom, away from everything, but I knew how wonderful the Pullman School Districts were. I felt comfortable, I felt excited. I keep track of this stuff because I think it's exciting. And honestly, when I moved in and got my daughter into all-day kindergarten, she is in, now Mrs. Sage, was Mr. West's class. I was excited because I had somewhat of a tumultuous past with WSU daycare where I felt like I had to keep a close eye on them and whatnot. Got in here, I was excited. I've heard nothing but great things. Then got in with a new teacher. My daughter was excited, loved the monkey, loved everything she was learning and doing, and excited about reading. Same thing with Tyann, brought home that book. Same exact story, made me read it over and over. And then I was actually there when Mr. West left that day. I was there in the classroom. I volunteered in his classroom. And to find out the way I found out, and to find and have these kids, each and every one of you, each and every one of them walking out of that classroom, each and every single one of them stopping right next to me, going, Mr. West's last day today. Tears streaming from their faces. Tears. 5 6-year-olds. 5 and 6-year-olds. No explanation. Nothing whatsoever. Mr. West didn't say anything to me. He just said that today was his last day. He was devastated. I could see it in his face. Called the principal, wanted to know. She tried to give me some explanations. I didn't feel comfortable with all of those explanations. I felt that maybe the new teacher that was coming in was going to be the superstar. To find out that he was replaced with a brand new teacher that graduated, it just made me uncomfortable. And I'm still very uncomfortable. Do I like the new teacher? Sure. Do I feel that she probably needs more support? Sure. Did Mr. West probably need more support? Sure. But to do this to 5-year-olds, to change them out with a teacher that is the same, pretty much at the same stepping stone, this was reckless. Yes, kids can get over this. Yes, they will move on. But my child also comes home completely sad, doesn't want to go to school. It's devastating to her to have this happen and to have no explanation and nobody coming here and telling us what's coming up next. And not seeing extra support in the classroom is absurd and ridiculous. And I really do hope that the board comes up with something and at least gives us parents some confidence back into the school district. I have to move on to 1st grade. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Spokane's calling. There's lots of jobs up there.
Did you hear the timer?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So thank you, but please be more open and honest.
Does anyone else wish to? Okay.
Hi, I'm Betsy Wilson, and I live at 910 Northwest Clifford Street. And the one thing I would like to say is that that timer is really annoying, and that there are lots of visual timers that are used for debate situations. I'm sure the school district has some. There are visual timers that are used in classrooms that are not demeaning to people who are using a timer. So I would like to suggest that you look for other types of timers. I know that Bob knows about them because he's worked in special ed quite a few times. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Okay. Thank you all for letting us know what's on your mind, and you've given us quite a bit to read. I know I will read it all. I assume you guys will as well. The next portion of our agenda is the consent agenda. To expedite business at a board meeting, the board approves the use of a consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item which appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by a member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Tonight's consent agenda consists of minutes, warrants, a budget status report, ASB fundraisers, professional and personal services contract report, overnight field trip requests, personnel report, and transfer requests.
I would move approval of the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the consent agenda is approved. Next, we have action items. Our first action item is policy 6114, gifts, and Superintendent Maxwell is presenting this item.
Thank you very much. So this is, make sure I have the right one, 6114 gifts. This was presented at our last school board meeting, and there was some discussion regarding the possibility of adding nominal value, inexpensive gifts. And so I'm going to jump to the procedure here. So you can see that the language has been updated to reflect gifts that are nominal value are acceptable. And it's the yellow highlight right here. So again, the board recognizes that students and/or parents may wish to express their appreciation to school staff by giving gifts. In recognition of the fact that not all families can afford or show their appreciation with gifts, the board encourages letters of appreciation and discourages the giving of all but small, inexpensive gifts instead. So that was in response to some of the discussion that we had at our last one. So there are no other changes, additional new changes other than the ones that are already underlined, but I highlighted the yellow that is different than last time when this was presented.
It's different from last time, however, it is the same as the current policy, it just moves it.
It just moves it,
that
right.
language up higher.
So that's the change.
I would consider a motion regarding policy 6114.
I would move that we approve revisions to policy 6114, gifts as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve policy 6114. Is there any additional discussion?
Only in terms of inexpensive gifts. Do we have a cap? I mean,
We don't have a dollar cap on it.
Don't have a dollar cap. So it's pretty much up to the judgment of the parent giving a gift to a teacher or a teacher giving a gift to a student.
Correct.
The way I think about this is it's district guidance saying that what we are encouraging is letters of appreciation.
Sure.
It's not necessarily going to go out as guidance to individuals. It's just our district
So we're
position.
essentially saying we trust the parent to give whatever they feel is a gift, but it should not be an expensive gift.
Yeah.
Correct.
And vice versa, the teacher can give a gift, but it should not be an expensive gift. So it's just an element of trust.
Correct.
Okay.
Nominal value, inexpensive.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, policy 6114 gifts is approved. Our next item is resolution 161707, the Jefferson final acceptance.
Yes, Joe Thornton is not here tonight. I asked him to be at the planning council meeting because we have some input that we need to share regarding some upcoming developments. So I'll be taking Joe's place tonight. Joe went over these resolutions with you at our last meeting. These are pretty typical common resolutions that need to be done with the completion of a project, and this is the project that was completed this past summer at Jefferson Elementary School. So it's been completed in accordance to contract specification and documents. And I can go to that resolution if you would like. And that is the resolution.
I move approval of Resolution 161707, the Jefferson final acceptance.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve this resolution. Is there any further discussion?
I would just mention that it's evidence of the complexity of even accepting 4 classrooms that we added, that they've been in wonderful service for us for 7 months now. But it takes until now for all the punch list items to be taken care of. Particularly to the audience and those that are watching on television, to give them some idea of how long sometimes these processes take.
Any further discussion?
I just might mention that the commissioning process is a very thorough process. They check every motor, every fan that is turning in the correct direction so that you don't have fans fighting each other in the building. And so it's a process that's necessary, and it actually saves districts a tremendous amount of money in the long run to know that everything is operating properly. So I'm definitely in favor of the process, and of course it's a housekeeping issue to approve a resolution at this time.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the resolution for Jefferson final acceptance is approved. We have a separate resolution for the Jefferson final building commissioning acceptance.
I should have been speaking on this one, hadn't I?
Okay.
So the second is the final building commissioning acceptance. And so the construction services group, which we hire when we do construction projects, are an independent group that helps us navigate the process, submitted the final building commissioning report, which Dina talked about, the process that assure that the building systems are installed, operating.
I'm sorry, do you know that it says addiction?
Yeah, there's
Acceptance of Jefferson addiction.
Yep, spelling mistake there. Thank you.
Good catch.
But we are very addicted to the building. So.
At this point, yes.
So, thank you. So in addition to this, I would just add that our staff have been trained on all the systems. This system, there's a very high-tech lighting system, heating system, cooling system that go with this. So our staff have been trained. They've been signed off that they've been trained as part of this commissioning process as well. But again, just to know that everything has been double-checked. We've worked through all the little issues that happen with construction projects, and our staff have been trained.
I realize I'm not supposed to speak now, but it reminds me, my son recently told me that that thing on the door coming in from outside fell. And as he was coming through, it didn't clunk him on the head, but, it's just now that I'm remembering this. So I don't know when that got checked, but it seems to have failed.
Yeah.
Do anyone know about that?
I believe that was the fan unit.
No, he explained it as that I don't know what you call that thing on the door. The door closing by itself, so it doesn't slam. We can talk about it later.
We can talk
but I don't
about
know if you need to know that before you say approve.
Was it at Jefferson?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk with you about that.
Okay, thanks.
To get more details, so,
Thanks.
thank you.
I think so. Yeah. I think so.
That will probably come under our warranty item.
All right. So did you go to the resolution
I'll go to it right
itself?
now.
Okay. So, directors, you have before you Resolution 161708 for the Jefferson Final Building Commissioning Acceptance. I would entertain a motion for this resolution.
I move approval of Resolution 161708, Jefferson Elementary School Edition Commissioning Report.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any additional discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the resolution has passed.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Kamiak Elementary School mascot selection. And I'll call upon you again for this.
Thank you. So Joe has been leading the committee regarding the selection of the mascot and colors. So in accordance, he had developed the criteria. We accepted community input from March 15th to April 6th. We had 34 nominations. The committee met, narrowed it down to the 4 that are represented there. So the coyotes, the hawks, the kestrels, and the quails. You can kind of see that the number representing on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being absolutely not, to 10 representing absolutely yes. This was kind of the breakdown for the committee. Of course, you are free to select whichever you would like. So there are 4 nominations. I would like to also point out that we did receive a late email with a concern about kestrels. If it was a Kamiak kestrels and something of KK might be referenced as the KKK. But typically we don't have, that's just what I want to point it out. It was a concern that was submitted.
I move acceptance of the recommended action that was done by the committee, having been in on previous name selection. I know the process is rigorous, and in that the kestrel is, all of them are actually found on the site. I think it's significant that it ranked nearly 10.0 on a scale of 1 to 10, and also that the palette for the colors that the architect is working with are all derived from colors that are on the kestrel. I didn't realize until I looked closely at photographs, I wasn't on the committee, that actually the blue that we're going to use in a few places on the interior are actually on the lower wings. It's a beautiful bird, and so I recommend, I move approval of the recommendation number 1, the kestrel, 9.7 on a scale of 10.
I second that motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that kestrels be selected as the mascot for Kamiak. Is there further discussion?
Oh, I might add that I wasn't one of the ones that submitted that as a recommendation.
Is there further discussion?
Although there were many, several that did.
It might be good for the audience to know who was on the committee. It was represented by parents, teachers,
Staff, other staff other than teachers. We have no idea, with the exception, we have no idea who the staff actually will be of the new school when it's staffed, but
no,
we
I was
involved.
talking about the committee.
Yeah,
that
the
made
committee.
selection.
Right.
Okay.
But we couldn't have put any staff from it. We couldn't put on the committee staff, the current staff is what I was saying, because we haven't staffed the school yet.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so you're suggesting that we share who was on the committee, who?
No, that was represented by parents and current staff
Correct.
of the Pullman School District.
And community members.
And students.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, as chair, can I participate in the discussion? Okay. I much prefer quail as mascot, and I share the concern about having alliterative Ks. I think it's potentially problematic. That's my opinion, but is there any further discussion? Okay.
I don't share that concern. It's going to be known as KES, as
Yeah, I understand.
JES and SES and so on. And I think that just as we had discussions about the name of the school itself, and the possibility of there are two sides to the story of Chief Kamiakin and so on.
That's right.
That
I was
should
outvoted
anything
then,
be,
too.
should somebody fill in the third K and choose to match it with the school, it will be a chance, just as when those things come up in relationship to Chief Kamiakin, or how did it get to be Kamiak Butte, that we use it as an opportunity to work with the students around that association. But we really can't figure out what associations are going to be made in the future. It's 2/3 of a evil group, but it isn't in and of itself anything.
Okay. All right, if there is
I
no...
might add, as long as we're still in discussion, correct?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, I mean, we're missing a school board member,
Mhm.
so we could table this until the next meeting, unless this is time sensitive. I don't think it is.
I don't think it is,
So-
yeah.
That way
So
we're taking the top two.
if it's been moved and seconded, I'm unclear on, Director Kinzer, can you?
Well, technically, you're supposed to go ahead and vote on the motion unless it's withdrawn. And so if we were to vote down the motion to have Kestrels as the mascot for this new school, then it would be opened up again, basically.
Okay.
Because it does not automatically fall to the second ranked nomination.
Oh, yeah, I get that.
Right,
Yes.
but-
I'm just wondering
but-
how to,
If somebody were to move and it would pass that we table it, that takes precedence over what's on the table at the moment. So that could be tabled till the next meeting for us.
okay. Did you move that we table?
I would so move.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we table the motion until, or table the
issue till.
Table the issue until the next meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so the mascot selection is tabled until the next meeting, and hopefully all of us will be at the next meeting. Next, we have our discussion items, beginning with policy 3124, removal of a student during school hours.
Thank you. So as part of our process, I talked a little bit earlier this evening about we're going back and working in the 3000s and trying to update our 3000 policies and procedures. This was one that we've been working on, 3124, removal of student during school hours. So the purpose was to update the policy in alignment with 1211.
What is that, 1211?
That was the date the last time it was revised.
Oh, okay.
And so,
So 121116?
no, 12 December 2011.
That's what I feared. Okay.
So, changes include generalizing language to refer to district procedures, restricting students from excusal to confer with persons not authorized by the principal, authorization to develop procedures, and added designee in the paragraph. Added designee is not in the WASDA sample, but I think it's relevant to the situation. If you had an assistant principal or principal designee when the building principal is not available or present. The legal and policy references were updated. And again, a slight change in language from custodial to residential parent. And then paragraph 6.0 is deleted, not part of the WASDA language, since it seems to be addressed in paragraph 7.0, which is now 6.0. So that's quite a bit. So let me jump to the actual policy. Oops.
So the policy we're updating has been the one that's been around.
It's been around since 2011. And again, the highlight, again, persons authorized according to district procedures. And in the underline, the teacher should not excuse a student from class to confer with anyone unless the request is approved by the principal. The superintendent is directed to establish procedures for the removal of a student during school hours. And then the other changes is the principal or designee will attempt to reach a student's parent to let them know the school's action and to request he and she come to school for the child if the principal or designee cannot reach the parent. So we really only had the principal in there, not a designee, and many times we might have the principal maybe out of the building and there's a designee in their place. So it's really cleaning up some of the language, but this has been around for quite a long time. And going back, and you can see we've updated the cross-references. The classification have been left off of this, and you'll notice it says essential, so this is one that we really must have as part of our policies. And you can see the history starting back as far as 1991. So
if this is an essential policy, why are we?
the essential, it's always been there, but the essential classification was left off. We just plugged it in.
Okay.
So in future reviews, we'll know that this was an essential policy.
But how is it that we're revising, we're making changes that were recommended in 2011?
A lot of it's kind of going back and trying to catch up on a lot of the policies and procedures.
Okay. I thought my eyes were deceiving me when I saw that in the executive summary. And I didn't even know if that was a date. I would suggest actually writing out
The dates.
Yeah, because it didn't even look right.
Sometimes you've been on the policy committee for quite a while, but sometimes after the legislative sessions, the suggested changes come so fast and furious that it's almost like when I was on the committee, I used to draw the analogy of the San Francisco Bay Bridge that constantly is being painted because it takes so long to paint it that by the time they finish, they have to start on repainting it. And sometimes the policy work feels that way. So this is one that's been in practice, but we haven't updated it like the pieces of residential and so on.
Bob, can you take us through one more time? What was the part that you said was a district versus WASDA?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Yep. The part is that WASDA doesn't delineate
The designee part.
which is very common in our policies and procedures.
Okay, got you.
It's a suggestion I'm going to send to them. So
Yeah, absolutely. Totally makes sense. Okay, thank you.
you're welcome. Along with that, this is another one that we've gone back, and this is 3120 enrollment and attendance records. So this policy was updated to align with WASDA. However, on the most recent revision, there are 3 minor reference changes that were missed. So in 2015, we actually worked on this one, but we missed the RCW, deleted policy 3122, and added classification as essential. So some of these things were left off that should have been included when we did the revision in 2015. So I'm going to jump to that because we also cleaned it up. Sorry about that. So again, rather than appoint, we put direct, because you really don't appoint the superintendent to develop a procedure, you direct that. So we also struck out this litany of list of items, and just to clarify it, we just put it in a much simpler, easy to read format. So briefly indicate in writing whether the student has any history or placement in special ed program, any past, current, pending disciplinary action, and so on and so on. Add it if the district receives information that a student has a history of disciplinary actions, criminal or violent behavior, or other behavior that indicates a student could be treated could be a threat to the safety of staff or students. The students, teachers, and building security personnel will be informed. Again, this was language that was in. Rather than a district, we put the district. The district will not inquire into a student's citizenship or immigration status or that of his or her parents or guardian. So that's keeping an update with what's current. Then you can see that we've corrected some of the RCWs that were left out or needed to be replaced or corrected.
Any questions?
I have one, Bob. I think I know the answer, but I'm not sure.
Sure.
And maybe it would help those watching and here in the audience. That has to do with, my memory is that we don't have any choice about the policies that are labeled essential. It's not discretionary whether the district has one or not. We have to have a policy on
If it's essential,
enrollment and attendance records, right?
essential, we have to have it, yes.
And so all we're doing by adding that is it's now been, or should have been all along classified as essential. The important point is that we had it anyway.
We had
It's
it, we just
we're
didn't
now
know.
labeling it as essential, okay.
And a lot of the older ones didn't necessarily come with the essential or discretionary marked on them. We're just kind of going back and really cleaning it up so it's clear when you look back into history. So we don't have to go back and look it up again, it's on there.
I just wanted to make sure that what I was remembering was
And
correct.
are you working in the 3000s right now? Is there like a theme to the updates?
We're just starting kind of with the 3000s. We also want to work on the 5000s and the 6000s. Those are the ones that are kind of really, but we're going to stop at the 3000s now. We're jumping back to April because I think in April we had like 20 new policies. So we're going to jump back to the present and then we'll go back and start picking up at the 3000s, into the 5000s, into the 6000s. And of course with that, anytime we get new updates, we'll switch back, try to get those cleaned up. So it's really hard to, when you're getting 20 new policies a month, as you can see, we're only doing 3, and we only meet twice a month. So by doing some of this work and trying to get caught up, we're trying to clean up our policies and procedures and get them as up to date as quickly as possible. Plenty of work to do.
Okay. Next, we have materials option with our Assistant Superintendent, Roberta Kramer.
Is this what you want first?
Yeah, we can start with that. So what we'll ask at the next board meeting is for approval of the textbooks that are brought to you tonight.
Okay.
You can see I'm not going to even attempt, I took German in high school and college. I did not take Spanish or French, so I'm not going to try to say what the name of the books are, but you can see that they are listed there. In addition to the books, a critical component to our adoption cycle is to also make sure that we update reference materials in our libraries. And so for this particular adoption, that will address some additional resources to both the middle school and the high school because we offer both French and Spanish at both schools. So if you wouldn't mind going to the PowerPoint, please.
Just let me know and I'll hit the clicker. I'll try not to touch the button.
Okay, thank you. If we go to the next slide, Spanish materials were last adopted 10 to 12 years ago, and French about 11 years ago. So you can see that would be indicative of the need. And it's not, certainly the materials have been updated, but also a piece that's critical to new adoptions now are the online resources. And so these materials have no online accompanying resources. And so that's a really exciting piece for the kids. And certainly, there has been significant use of the materials, and they are in pretty dramatic disrepair at this point. And it also was the next thing in line for the adoption cycle. So if you go to the next slide, please.
I'll just also add that the Spanish vocabulary, alphabet changed, excuse me, slightly, which I wasn't aware of.
So, as you know, we have a process as a system, started by looking at the state world languages standards, identifying best practices, and one of the best practices in foreign language instruction certainly is having that electronic component. And one of the important pieces that I've learned about in this process is that of course, one of the things that we want to know is that kids leave really being able to speak the language as well. A part of this, the new technology, is that kids there's an opportunity for them to speak and for that to be assessed electronically so that the teacher isn't having to do all of that. And that's very time consuming. Imagine how much time that would take. And so this is going to result in much more immediate feedback. So that's a very exciting component. And then we take those best practices and then align them to materials that might be available. It was initiated last school year and continued into this current school year. The 3 world language teachers, in consultation with the administration, participated in a bulk components of the work. Bias screening was conducted. There was community review of the materials available this last March. And it was reviewed first by CAC in March and then again approved in April. And now we're bringing it forward to the board. So based on the conversation in March, there were some pieces that we needed to go back and double check. And so they were responsive to that and then came back and provided us with more information. And in your board packet are copies of those minutes from the CAC meetings for you to review as well. So in the materials review, we use a rubric that examines all the bias areas. I expect that the administrators will review the materials, also that we offer opportunity for community, for parents and other staff members and community members to look at our materials. They present formally to this CAC, and then I'm here to present to the board. The materials that have been forwarded are these texts for Spanish.
You really don't want to say that.
I don't. Okay, thank you. Okay, and then for French, you'll notice that we have 3 by 1 publisher, and then for French 3, we have a different course. And the reason is that we have an agreement with Eastern Washington University to offer French 3 and have students get college credit for it. And so in that process, we have to use the book that Eastern Washington uses. And initially, a concern that was brought up in the committee was, is that going to be problematic for students to do 1 and 2 in this text and then go to this text and then return to this text if they chose to take 4? And the answer is no. These materials, though, are more college-based. This is their first course that you would take in college in French, where in high school this would be your first course. So that's what the difference is there. And then supporting library materials, and Julie has put together a very comprehensive list of those. Our approximate budget, you can see, is a total of between $500 and $56,700, depending on how many teachers' editions we need of particular texts based on who teaches what. And my guess is that we will land on the $56,700, and then we will need to pay other associated costs. So that's why it is approximate. You can see for for Spanish, and I wish I am remiss in that I do not have the total number of textbooks, but Spanish books are half as much as French books. And that surprised me because they're about the same size. You know, they seem to offer the same things. But the reason is because Spanish is much more commonly taught in schools in the U.S. versus French, and so they don't produce as many French texts, and so they are double the cost. I believe that the Spanish textbooks are about $90 per book, including a 6-year communication opportunity, versus the French books are right around $200 a piece for the same thing. But I think that the teachers engaged very deeply in the process, and I think that it was very thoughtful, and I'm excited that we're going to get new books into the hands of our students next school year. You want to go to the next one? Oh, questions?
Yeah, how does the e-communication, I don't understand that part.
It's going to be new for me too. But as the way that one of the teachers explained it to me is that students will have accounts. So we'll pay for so many accounts for however many students we have. Then they're able to go in and enroll and then be able to access, if it's a matter of speaking back into to complete a oral language assessment, then that's what they're able to do. And then it reads it and then gives the teacher the information. But certainly the teacher is going to also want to have regular contact and with the kids and listening to them speak as well. That's how the kids will get feedback and really improve. But it's very sophisticated. It's essentially what I believe it to be, like other programs that we work with where we have speech to text. It's very similar to that.
So is it kind of like Read 180 with the headset?
That's the way I understand it, yes.
Okay.
So I'll be looking forward to it. I think it'll be a really fun experience for our kids.
Yeah, I know these materials are long overdue.
Any other questions?
Do the students have access to all these books electronically in case they forget to pack one home?
They can have access electronically. That's part of what we're paying for. In addition to that, we are buying a classroom set plus a set for checkout. For the teachers didn't want a book for every student. They don't feel that in foreign language in particular that it's necessary, but they wanted the opportunity for kids to be able to check out a book if they needed, if they didn't have resource, an opportunity to access it electronically at home.
So electronic would be the primary means.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. There are some informational items on the agenda tonight. The administrative requirements update, the board calendar, current enrollment, and the procedures that accompany policies 3120 and 3124. So you can review those at your leisure. And next, if there are no objections, the board will recess into an executive or closed session. How long is our executive session?
A lot will depend on the conversation around the dedicated teacher award nominations. I'd venture to guess 30 minutes.
How long is the negotiations?
That'll be short.
Okay. Yeah, I think 30 minutes. Okay. So we will move into an executive session. No action will be taken, and after the end of our executive session, the meeting will be adjourned. Thank you.
Okay.